On New Year's Day in 2003, the promise of a fresh start was shattered in Fillmore, California, when a 911 caller made a chilling discovery. He had stumbled upon the body of a deceased lady in a roadside drainage culvert, turning what should have been a day of new beginnings into a day of tragic loss. 19-year-old Valerie Zavala Wilson's body was discovered in a gruesome state, sending chills through the town of Fillmore, California. She had been placed in a concrete drainage culvert along an isolated road a few miles away from Fillmore. The bruises all over her partially naked body indicated that she had been severely beaten before her death. Blood still dripped from one of her earlobes, painting a chilling picture of the previous night's events. Who could have killed someone as young and kind as Valerie in such a brutal manner? Was this a random act of violence, or did the perpetrator know Valerie and betray her trust in such a ruthless way? Welcome to Maya's reality channel, where we bring you compelling true crime stories. From unsolved mysteries to notorious criminals, we leave no stone unturned as we navigate the dark corridors of real-world crimes. Please don't forget to give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more. Now let's get back to the story. Valerie Diane Zavala Wilson was born on August 20th, 1983, in Santa Paula, California, United States. She was the firstborn of her parents, Kevin and Michelle Zavala. Later, Kevin and Michelle had 3 more children, blessing Valerie with 2 sisters, Jessica and Kirsten, and a brother named Kevin. Shortly after Kevin's birth, the Zavala family moved to Fillmore, California, where Valerie and her siblings attended Fillmore High School. Valerie excelled as a student and graduated with honors. After high school, Valerie was accepted into San Jose State University, where she chose liberal arts as her major, aspiring to become an elementary school teacher. At the university, Valerie joined the Alpha Kappa Delta sorority and eventually became the fundraising chairperson. Her friends described her as optimistic, always calm and composed, with a contagious laugh that earned her the nickname Shugabug. Tragically, one of Valerie's trips back home ended in disaster. Despite Fillmore's relatively low crime rate, predators lurked, even in broad daylight. During the winter break of 2002, Valerie returned home to Fillmore, California, for the holidays. She spent time catching up with her family, decorating for Christmas, and planning to attend a New Year's Eve party hosted by a friend, Denise Rutado, on December 31st, 2002. Valerie arrived at the party as planned, but that night would be the last time anyone saw her alive. The next morning, on January 1st, 2003, shortly after sunrise, Valerie's mother, Michelle, realized that Valerie hadn't returned home from the party. Panicked, she alerted everyone in the house and began calling Valerie's friends to find out where she could be. When their efforts failed, the family contacted the Ventura County Police Department to report Valerie missing. Detectives were preparing to investigate Valerie's disappearance when they received tragic news around 10:00 a.m. that same day. A teenage boy taking the shortcut through South Mountain Road, a rural road outside Santa Paula about 10 miles west of Fillmore, had discovered a woman's severed body in a concrete drainage culvert near an orange grove along the road. He immediately called the police to report the gruesome discovery. When detectives arrived at the scene, their worst fears were confirmed. The body in the drainage culvert was identified as 19-year-old Valerie Zavala. The condition of Valerie's body was disturbing, giving detectives a glimpse into the horror she might have endured before her death. To unravel the mystery of Valerie's gruesome death, detectives Melissa Smith and Bill Ayub from the Ventura County Police Department, along with Chief of Police Jose Rivera from Ojai, took charge of the investigation. Valerie's body was found in a disturbing state, yet not yet decomposing, indicating she hadn't been there long. The fact that blood was still oozing from one of her ears, which was missing an earring, while the other earring remained in place, was another clue suggesting a recent incident. She was covered in bruises and nearly naked, with her top pulled up to her shoulders and no bottom wear. Strangely, her body had been partially covered with trimmings from a cypress tree, despite no cypress trees being in the area, likely an attempt to conceal her. Detectives, with heavy hearts, relayed the tragic news to Valerie's family, who had reported her missing just hours earlier. The pain was unbearable, especially for Valerie's mother, Michelle. Despite his sorrow, Valerie's father, Kevin, acted as a pillar of support for his devastated family. Immediately after Valerie's body was discovered, detectives began investigating the case. Once the Zavala family was in a better condition, detectives gathered information from them. They learned that Valerie had left the house around 8:30 p.m. on New Year's Eve with a friend, Anna Hinojosa, and a cousin, Robert Padilla, to attend a party at a friend's house. This was the last time anyone from Valerie's family had seen her. Around 1:00 a.m. on January 1st, 2003, Valerie called home and informed her mother that she was dropping off two friends who had too much to drink and would be home soon after. Valerie's parents stayed up for a while but eventually went to bed, assuming Valerie, who was with friends, had lost track of time and would return home. However, Valerie never did, and the family woke up to the tragic news of her death. Detectives also asked Kevin if Valerie had any enemies who could harm her. Kevin stated that he couldn't recall Valerie having any enemies, as she was kind and not the type to provoke hatred from others. With this information, detectives aimed to uncover what had happened at the New Year's Eve party Valerie attended. They wanted to track her movements that night and establish a timeline of whom she had been with and when. The detectives first reached out to Denise, the friend who hosted the party. Based on their interviews, they confirmed that Valerie had attended the party, where everyone was having a good time. They then spoke to Anna, who stated that she, Valerie, and Robert had arrived at the party around 10 p.m. with drinks, food, dance, and music. Anna had consumed too much alcohol and asked Valerie to drive her home. Samuel Puebla, also known as Sammy, a classmate of Valerie's sister Jessica at Fillmore High School, also asked Valerie for a ride home. Acting as the designated driver, Valerie agreed, and the trio left the party around 1:30 a.m., shortly after Valerie had called her mother. Detectives interviewed everyone who had been seen with Valerie at the party and discovered a video captured by another friend, showing Valerie in good spirits during the New Year countdown. Through questioning, they learned that Valerie's ex-boyfriend, Isaac, was considerably older than her and had been possessive and jealous during their relationship. The couple had faced issues because of Isaac's behavior in the past, leading detectives to consider him a person of interest, especially since he was supposed to meet Valerie that night and was potentially the last person to see her alive. As the search for Isaac intensified on January 2nd, 2003, news of Valerie's death spread through Fillmore, and her loved ones mourned her loss. Valerie's sorority sisters organized a candlelight vigil for her in San Jose, and a memorial webpage was created in her honor, attracting condolences from friends and sorority and fraternity members nationwide. The investigation took a turn when Anna's car was found in a market parking lot in Fillmore on the evening of January 2nd, 2003. Signs of struggle inside the car gave detectives a glimpse into the horrors Valerie might have endured. Surprisingly, Isaac lived only a few blocks away from where the car was found, and Sammy's place was also nearby, raising suspicions. When detectives questioned Isaac, he claimed that Valerie had called him multiple times before leaving the party to wish him a Happy New Year and inform him that she was coming to meet him. However, Isaac stated that Valerie never arrived at his place. Despite confirming Valerie's calls to Isaac, detectives doubted his story and his involvement in Valerie's death. Without more concrete evidence, Isaac was not taken into custody, but remained a person of interest in the case. On January 4, 2003, the coroner completed examining Valerie's body and released the report to the detectives. The report revealed the gruesome details of Valerie's final moments and confirmed that she had been murdered. Detectives deduced that Valerie had been killed elsewhere and her body dumped in the culvert to avoid detection. Additionally, traces of saliva found on Valerie's chest were collected for DNA testing, suspected to belong to the killer, possibly Isaac. However, without solid evidence against him, obtaining a warrant for his DNA sample was challenging. The Zavala family arranged a funeral for Valerie at Bardsdale Cemetery in Fillmore, California. Many loved ones attended, including Sammy, who offered his condolences to Valerie's sister, Jessica. Despite ongoing investigations, detectives needed more help and offered a $1,000 reward for information related to the case. This reward prompted an eyewitness to come forward, reporting a sighting of a Hispanic male in his early 20s near a teal-colored older van on the day Valerie's body was discovered. Subsequently, another tip came from a couple who saw a subject matching the earlier description next to Anna's black sedan in the market parking lot. The man was described as around 200 pounds, in his 20s, wearing a two-tone gray jacket. Detectives believed this man could be the same person seen near the teal van, but his identity remained a mystery. Despite the tireless efforts of investigators, Valerie's case stalled until a sudden development provided new clues, giving hope for progress in the investigation. On January 6, 2003, a detective who had been on vacation during Valerie's murder and initial investigation returned to Fillmore. He was briefed on Valerie's case and remembered questioning Sammy about a burglary in early December 2002. In that case, Sammy had broken into a home around midnight, stolen items, kept some for himself, and discarded the rest in a dumpster behind St. Francis Church of Assisi. Considering criminals often repeat their methods, detectives decided to search the dumpster and its surroundings for evidence related to Valerie's murder. On January 8, 2003, they found a pair of black ladies' underwear, a black earring matching the one Valerie wore, and two sets of footprints, one large and one much smaller. Cypress branches similar to those found where Valerie's body was discovered were also found. All evidence was sent to a lab for DNA testing, and the results confirmed that the earrings and underwear belonged to Valerie. The focus shifted to Sammy, and detectives theorized that he dumped Valerie's belongings in the dumpster after murdering her, similar to the burglary. They questioned Sammy again, but he stuck to his original story, claiming Valerie left to see Isaac after they hugged. 3 weeks later, DNA results confirmed the evidence from the dumpster belonged to Valerie. Detectives obtained a warrant to collect Sammy's DNA, fingerprints, and also search his house. The detectives were, however, left in shock, as they found several stashes of women's underwear and cell phones stolen from young women in the community. This revelation suggested Sammy was involved in collecting trophies from his victims, shedding light on his dark nature. It's a chilling development in the case, pointing strongly towards Sammy's involvement in Valerie's murder. His pattern of behavior, from the burglary to the disturbing collection of trophies, paints a troubling picture. The evidence found in the dumpster, coupled with Sammy's past actions, seems to fit together like pieces of a puzzle. However, the final confirmation will come from the DNA tests and further investigation. During the search, detectives took Sammy outside for a direct interview. They asked if he had been intimate with Valerie, or if they had been more than friends, to which Sammy denied any romantic involvement, insisting they were just friends or acquaintances. Detectives then mentioned the evidence found at the dumpster and the saliva on Valerie's chest, asking about the possibility of his DNA being found on her body. The detectives stated that their motive was not to get a confession, but wanted to see if his story would change. As expected, Sammy changed his story, this time admitting to kissing Valerie after dropping off Anna. He claimed they ended up having a sexual encounter in the parking lot of St. Francis Church of Assisi, despite Valerie's plans to meet her ex-boyfriend after dropping Anna and Sammy off. Detectives found this revised story implausible, but decided to play along to gather more information. Sammy's discomfort became evident as detectives observed his uneasy body language. When asked if he was all right, Sammy attributed his unease to feeling cold. A detective went inside Sammy's house to retrieve a jacket and, surprisingly, pulled out 2 gray-toned jackets from a pile of clothes. One of the jackets had a dark center chest area and light-colored gray sleeves, matching what eyewitnesses had seen the suspect wearing. Furthermore, there was blood on the upper left chest of the jacket. While this placed Sammy at the crime scene, it was not sufficient to charge him. Despite this, detectives continued building a case against Sammy. Months later, DNA results confirmed that the saliva found on Valerie's body was Sammy's. However, what ultimately sealed Sammy's guilt was the fact that the blood found on his jacket belonged to Valerie. On June 3, 2003, after piecing together the evidence, Sammy was arrested for murder. However, the news of his arrest sent shockwaves through the Fillmore community, as Sammy, a straight-A student and football player who had been crowned prom king at Fillmore High, was not someone they expected to be the perpetrator. Despite initial disbelief, the overwhelming amount of evidence against Sammy dispelled any doubts the community had about his involvement in Valerie's murder. Sammy's trial began on July 9, 2004, with strong support from the prosecution. The detectives presented a theory that Sammy had killed Valerie in the parking lot of St. Francis Church of Assisi, later dumping her body in a concrete culvert along South Mountain Road outside Fillmore. They suggested that Valerie had fought desperately for her life in her final moments. According to the prosecution's theory, Sammy made advances towards Valerie, which she resisted. When she tried to stop him, he became violent and attempted to assault her. Valerie fought back fiercely, leading to a struggle in which Sammy choked her. Although Valerie was knocked unconscious, she regained consciousness and managed to flee the car. Sammy caught up with her and chased her into the church's parking lot, leaving behind 2 sets of footprints. Sammy then struck Valerie in the head, causing her earring to fly onto the pavement. Despite attempting to assault her and remove her clothes, Valerie fought back vigorously. Sammy pushed her to the ground and continued assaulting her, eventually striking her repeatedly in the head, causing severe injuries. He then manually strangled her until her pulse faded away completely. Afterward, Sammy picked up Valerie's clothes and belongings, throwing them into the dumpster behind the church. Since his home was nearby, he returned home to get the teal van to dispose of Valerie's body in the concrete drainage culvert along South Mountain Road, where he was seen by a couple leaving Fillmore after the New Year's Eve party. He later returned to the church's parking lot, picked up Anna's car, and left it in the market's parking lot, where he was seen by another witness. Sammy's trial lasted about a month, and on August 2, 2004, the verdict was announced. Valerie's friends and family members requested the judge to give Sammy the harshest sentence possible to make the world outside a safer place. After deliberating for 6 hours, the jury returned with a verdict. Sammy was convicted of first-degree murder, attempted assault, and the special circumstance of felony murder. Sammy's life sentence brought some closure to Valerie's family and friends, but it couldn't bring her back. Despite her absence, Valerie's memory would live on forever. Samuel is currently serving his life sentence in Ironwood State Prison in California. Do you think Sammy had been planning the attack since he saw Valerie at the party, or did he only see an opportunity to make a pass at Valerie once they dropped off Anna at her place? If the detectives hadn't discovered Sammy's jacket with Valerie's blood on it, would they still have had a strong case against Sammy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Also, if there's a case you'd like us to cover, don't hesitate to drop your recommendations in the comments section below. For more captivating true crime stories, like, share, and subscribe.